everyone. Thank you for joining us on our 7th podcast now. We are here at the Hatchery with Dr. Huan Xia from LusOasis. She's starting actually a brand new venture that's going to be hopefully part of our sampling box that we are going to take to the Future Food Venture Summit. Dr. Xia is actually starting on a new venture that's dealing with plant-based meats. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about that and tell us kind of, about the two businesses and what kind of drives you to start something like this.
Yeah, it's my true pleasure. Hello, everyone. I met Tony through Hatchery, as he mentioned. We are both a member here, and I become very impressed by Tony's background and how he ventures through his career and so rich background in education, industry experience, and land on this great startup he has now today. So I really appreciate this opportunity and to share anything I can. Two businesses. It's kind of crazy for a startup within like 1.5 years. It's a little bit over 1 year old. So maybe I should talk about my background a little bit. Yes. Why I do first and then second.
Because it's Dr. Huan Xia, right?
So speaking of that, I got my master's and PhD from Penn State in food science. So I'm actually a veteran in food industry for over 12 years. I worked for big food corporations such as Mars and McCain Foods before I decided to do my startup. And it is really began from my personal journey. I became a vegan about 5 years ago, and that truly transformed both for my physical health and mental clarity. So I felt much better, not only physically stronger, but also mentally much more clarity every day, and helped me to make better decisions for myself and happier decisions. And especially during the pandemic, I see a lot of people with chronic disease are more easy to getting the COVID from pandemic. So I felt like it's time for people to eat more healthier, not only for the taste and flavor of that, but also for their body and the mind. So that's the purpose for me to start LusOasis, is to help people to find the bliss in food, to satisfy both their body and the mind. And the meaning of LusOasis is also a made-up name called Lus means elucidate. Oasis is food oasis. So basically, I hope to elucidate a healthy food path for food oasis for people.
Okay. And actually, it might be worth letting people know what LusOasis is, right? What was the product that you had?
Yeah, correct. So our first line of product are a very unique baking mix for pancake and waffle mainly. And we have gathered the 3 most sought after benefits for the consumers. So it's all about benefits. It's gluten-free, keto-friendly, and vegan. Right. And we also innovate 4 amazing flavors. So we try to get your breakfast beyond breakfast, and you can enjoy much more than sweet. So we put savory into it, we put spicy into it, we put sour and salty. So it's all blended, as you can imagine. And people can enjoy it really beyond breakfast. So for example, as a waffle, as a snack, as a peach cobbler. We use sweet savory to make peach cobbler as well. So a lot of interesting options for people to make their breakfast, make their life more interesting by the flavors.
And before we go on to the plant-based meats, I should say we actually got the chocolate version of the baking mix, and our kids loved it. So if you look on our Instagram, you'll see we've actually tagged you guys. That was really, really good. So and that actually introduced me to your philosophy with food, which we'll talk about in a second. But if you could also quickly introduce for us, and for those of you who are listening on the podcast, we also have a YouTube channel, and on the YouTube channel, hopefully we'll be able to see the plant-based meats that you've come up with. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what makes it different from what's on the market today?
Yeah, we are super excited for this actually, and I'm really holding my breath for it because we are launching it in a couple of weeks. So today is almost end of April, so we are launching the early May, like that. The name is called Alchemeat, as Tony introduced. So Alchemeat is coming from the name alchemy, means magical transformation. Right. And Tony and I are having a kind of little debate. I really enjoy Tony's curiosity and intellectual capacity of asking those questions. Because in the ancient times, alchemy means like making something from lead to gold. And in this context, we try to convey that. We try to magically transfer the plant proteins into a real beef texture or real pork texture or real chicken texture. So there was magic involved, but in modern society, magic almost equal to science. And our brand essence for Alchemeat is really to forge science and humanity, which means myself and my team, to make extraordinary plant-based meat. So why extraordinary? And we are after this huge untapped opportunity in the animal meat industry. 60% consumption from whole cut meat, which equals to 66 billion pounds of meat in US only, not to counting the global consumption. However, there's no product for plant-based beef substitute in this category. So we are really going after for that. So hopefully everybody, not only vegetarian or vegan, everybody with omnivore type of appetite, they can enjoy this kind of things without reservation, because we are promised we're not going to sacrifice the texture, the taste, and the flavor of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening who may not know too much about the industry, in plant-based meats, as Dr. Xia told me a couple of times, was a lot of it is actually trying to emulate ground meats rather than whole cut meats, because whole cut meats are the really difficult things. The fibers that you find in chicken and in beef, it's very hard to recreate that grain. And so even previously when we had soy-based meats, a lot of them didn't really recreate the texture of the meat itself, because that's the really difficult part. And that's what you've cracked the code here. I'll let you guys know, just a spoiler alert, I ate it and it genuinely has a great texture. So for those of you that are on YouTube, you can see it. And what's different about this meat is really the little strands that you've worked out through. And you mentioned this to me, so I don't want to steal your thunder here, but an extrusion process, right, to create that texture. Is that right?
Yeah, it's proprietary technology. We are combining the modern food processing technology, such as extrusion, but there's many other steps as well in terms of to making the flavor right. Because we want to create this fiber, like fiber structure, but as well as the chewiness as well, because you need to have a little bit toughness and chewiness, but not too much, just about right. And then we also want to infuse the flavor and the tenderness into the meat as well. So this kind of combination of fiber, chewiness, and tenderness, juiciness together is really our golden key for the Alchemeat.
Gotcha.
And you got to try it by yourself. And other than this one, it is kind of Mongolia beef recipe. We tried. It's awesome. We received like positive feedback from over 100 people. They are really loving it. And another variety we are trying today is fajitas. You can put it into the tortillas like that. And this is another almost Chicago's favorite, called like Italian beef sliders. I can like lift up. Just to make you hungry.
The smell in here is pretty amazing. But no, I really appreciate that. The great thing about starting this business is being constantly seeing people do incredible things, like brand new things that the industry hasn't seen before. And I'll tell you, like that's $1 billion cut of beef right there. It really can be, and we're hoping that will definitely pan out for you. But one thing, what we talked about before, and the common thread between both of those, is better health and betterment of our lives through the food that you make. So, for example, this one we spoke about before. It's got no cholesterol, right? Yeah,
0 cholesterol and non-GMO proteins. So for people who know the plant-based meat area a little bit, there's a lot of amazing technologies. For example, people are using such as cellular agriculture, and they grow meat from the labs. So for us, we are using traditional technologies, and we are using all natural plant-based proteins. So there's no weight for the lab-grown meat, and the price is almost equal to the same beef, or sometimes can be even a little bit less. Right. So we are very proud of this commercial ready and also scalability is ready as well for our product.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And another reason why people want to go for plant-based meats is because the meat industry, factory farming, and all of those are a huge consumer of resources and also a huge polluter. So I think there's a huge impact to the world by doing this. But even for our health, right? What you were talking about, I think that's helping people to eat healthier is very, very important. And going back to LusOasis, the conversation that we had there, and you shared your passion at the time for the fact that LusOasis, when you were talking about those pancake mixes, doesn't just use replacement sugars. You actually use dates, but you use very little or less sugar compared to some of the alternatives. And then I remember a conversation about where you were talking about retraining our palate. And this is something my co-founder and wife is very, very passionate about, because she often talks about how the problem with Coke Zero and others is that you're using these replacement sugars that are a lot sweeter, and so you're training your palate to want even sweeter. So you're getting to that stage where you're pushing the bar of what level of sweetness you want in your everyday product. So could you tell us a little bit about that and how you think we need to kind of address that?
Yeah, this is such a interesting and very passionate area for myself too. I firmly believe the concept of conscious eating. I believe our innate ability to recognize something really good for ourselves and emerge that with it. Because if you think about the food, once the food comes into our body, it's become part of us, become part of our blood, become part of our flesh, become our energy. So once you embrace something like so intimately into your body, it's actually a very sacred process. So to me, when you choose food, you have to choose very carefully.
Right.
And not only choose for this temporary joy, you have to choose for the long-term energy sustainability for your body too. Sugar or meat, I can talk about both. It's all about choosing them consciously. To Tony's point, some natural, some sweeteners on the market, even though they are natural, their intensity of the sugar sweetness could be 300 times more than table sugar. So even though they do not have calories, but they will disrupt your hormonal system or disrupt your mind perception. So this time you eat this sweetener without calorie, but next time your level of desire for sugar become much higher. So that's kind of a way to get you addictive. So you cannot really get away from that. And plus those hormonal disruptions, they can do harm in the long term in many different ways. People are still researching about it. So that's why in our product, in LusOasis product, we use no sugar and no sweeteners. We only use whole foods like dates to sweeten the product. Right. So people can eat it consciously and your body can be very comfortable with it and happy with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was talking to, I believe it was Alina earlier in one of our earlier podcasts about how I grew up, which, on the summers we would go back to India and to my my grandparents' farm. And what was interesting to me in those days when I think back is we didn't have meat every day.
Yeah.
It was an unusual thing. We've changed our diet so much now that we're eating things every day that used to be an occasional thing. Sweets used to be an occasional thing. I remember growing up how sweets were something that you got on a special occasion.
Yeah.
We're eating it every day now. We're having, and again, thinking back to when we were kids, a lot of the food didn't have sugars at all, right? And we've come to that stage because of our affluence as a society that we want all of those premium things every day, and I think that's throwing off our balance in our our whole health.
Yeah, exactly. And if we listen to our body, actually, our body really knows about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is another thing. Like I'm kind of working on silently or secretly. I really want to promote this conscious eating.
Right.
When you eat with the food, you become one. It's almost like a meditative stage of getting something into your body. So not only you see the appearance, you smell it, you hear the audible sounds when you chew it. So basically you need to use all your 5 senses. Then your body will tell you whether this is good food for you or not. You don't need anybody else. So maybe you are really hungry, they will or really thirsty, you definitely will ask him for water. So this kind of instinct response, it's very important for us to know.
Right.
Yeah.
And that listening to your body, that's so key. I know my co-founder Merle, she always talks about that. There were some books that came out in the 90s that talked about the Japanese and the French way of eating. And what it ultimately boiled down to is listen to your body. Right? Eat till you're full and then stop eating. Don't eat to fulfill a desire, but fulfill the hunger that your body needs for the food. And so when you talk about like Japanese food and it's very, very small individual packages, all that concepts is supposed to do, and it used to be the same in India too back in the days, which is you're not eating a lot, you're eating a little, right? So that portion control helps you to control those cravings and be intentional about listening to your body. So I think that's 100%. I think that's something that's a message that needs to get out there to more people, and especially as we're raising kids now. I have 2 kids, and trying to raise them to train their palate not to want sweets all the time. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Because they're surrounded by it, right?
Definitely. Yeah, it's a lot of work for our next generation, and there's a lot more we can do. But as a food entrepreneurs, that's kind of, we want to do these little small steps to send this message out, and also encourage people look at it. Without these added intensive sweetener or sugar, the food can still taste great. Yeah. So that's our intention, and it takes a lot more to do that. But that's the whole meaning of the startup. We wanted to venture and test small and do things very fast, but in a very, very scalable way. Yeah.
Dr. Xia, I know today we are almost out of time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And share some of the plant-based meats here. I know you are also looking to put this out into the marketplace. So if people are interested in it, is there a way they can reach out to you? Maybe the LusOasis website. Is there a way they can reach out to you?
Yes, a great question. So right now we have a LusOasis.com website, LusOasis, OASIS. So you'll see our baking mix for a novel flavor baking mix over there. So in about 2 weeks, we're also going to put Alchemeat, the first product, Mongolia beef product over there too. So you can be the first one to taste it. Awesome. It will come out as a very limited time offer, maybe like 20, 40 a time. So you have to grab it when it's there. Gotcha. So we're really testing the market, and I really appreciate your attention and your feedback.
Okay, great. And hopefully if you are coming to the Future of Food Venture Summit, we're hoping to get some samples in there as well so people can taste and see how good it is. And genuinely am impressed by the quality and the texture of it. So thank you for joining us today, Dr. Xia. There's so much more we can say on the subject of intentional eating, conscious eating. I hope we can spend some time maybe in the coming, as this becomes more commercialized, to take some time to go back and maybe continue that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Next time I can talk about why vegan.
Yes. That would be great. My brother-in-law is also vegan. He was a huge meat eater and went vegan, and he often quotes very much the same kind of results that you mentioned as well. So definitely we will have another conversation going on. Thank you all for joining us for this podcast, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.